Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom from the universe. And I greet you with all the love there is around. Cosmic hugs, everybody. And so I'm hoping that somewhere in your world, things are going as well as possible. And, so I was thinking earlier in being an old man that I remember my grandpa and some of them older folks, and they was grumpy all the time. Now I could understand, that um, that on the face of things, I'm probably that grumpy old man. In that, what in tarnation's wrong with these folks these days? They got phones in their ears and phones in their noses and they got phones in their rears. I mean, literally, they sit on their phones and women packs them in their bras. I mean, it's like, what in tarnation is wrong with people these days? And I think to myself, self, me and self, wait, me, myself, and I we we form a consortium. Me, myself, and I is a conspiracy. Now, this is supposed to be um, seriously funny or something, or I should say sarcastic in nature, and hopefully will bring a smile to you. But in this grumpiness, and it seems to me that I am up to a point a grumpy person, and I claim the right to be a grumpy old man because I fulfill the part of being old, and I have put in my time on this planet, and I deserve the right to be grumpy. Maybe anyway. But what makes me grumpy today? Well, these people are talking and yakking about this, and people are over here yakking and talking about that. Well, in my day, we all we had was the telephone and the radio, and it was a crystal set radio. Folks these days don't even know what that is, and what is FM? Hmm, is that short for farmer? For FM? Anyway. But so the idea, though, that grumpiness is contagious. Now I look around and I see that, that the folks will make a comment and somebody else has got to come in there. And if they don't agree with them, what they going to do? They going to show their grumpiness. You hear what I'm talking about? Now they will throw that grumpiness. They will pull it out of a sack and say, here, if I don't have enough grumpiness at the moment, I'm going to reach down here in this here gunny sack and I'm going to yank me out some more grumpiness because it is my right to be grumpy. Okay. But should you? Well, I don't know. I mean, but I have the right to declare my disdain. And it's like, hey, Al, how you doing? I bet you've met a grumpy person or two in your travels, ain't you? So, but the idea, though, that if somebody's grumpy and say, what's wrong with you there, boy? And say, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And all of a sudden, there's grumpiness going on. And rather than, hey, Bill, how you doing there? Well, I'm all right there, Slim. You having a good day? Well, had a little trouble early on, but things is calming down. Gonna mosey on home. How about you? Well, it's okay. I about the same here. Kind of a slow start, but we all right. Okay, so, and I have been around both. I grew up on a carnival, and you know, folks are drunk at 11 o'clock in the morning. Some of them drunk at 10, um, so they're like, get that done, and you go over there, you get that done. We got to get this done today. Okay, grumpiness. Well, I noticed that over my lifetime, those people who were grumpy, I always turned around and said, "Man, that guy, he's so dead grumpy." If it just wears on you, and you say, "Well, listen, I'm every time I go near that guy, man, I feel like my energy's just been drained. I feel like, I just don't like to go around him." Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't like to go around him either. He's just grumpy all the time. Makes you feel grumpy, you know. So in this world of the chaos that we're in, and that's with a K, right? Chaos. Um, K with apostrophe OS, chaos. Or is that kiosk? Anyway. So in this day of rhyme and reason and time of such, that the chaos is around us, and it's on some of this chaos is like caca, and that will even make you even more grumpy, because this chaos is one thing, but when you gotta deal with caca, well, now oh my God, now I got caca on my foots, I got them on my bootses, and I did not wear my rubbers today, either on my feet or anywhere else. And so, therefore, I have caca on me. And from the chaos, chaotic caca. So now you think about this and you go, what in the blazes is Hawkeye on tonight? And it's what I'm not on, I guess. But the idea, though, that how grumpy somebody's in an ill mood and that'll set you off and you just kind of makes you want to shiver and shake and bellyache, and as being a person who was really good at picking up at other people's belly aching, and I had enough of my own to bellyache about, and some of it had a reason, but over the years I've realized that if you choose to be a grumpy soul, okie dokie, it is your free will. But the people, because I used to be grumpy all the time, and people looked at me and said, at Mr. Dave, he's grumpy all the time. What's up with him? And I overheard somebody say it, and I was like, am I really grumpy all the time? It was my tone of voice. It was my tone of voice. And I went, oh my goodness gracious. It's when I turned my speech around and started speaking in the positive. So I have years of practice with this, right? In that, yes, it does work, and yes, it is effective. Because instead of people going, oh, he just grumpy all the time. Yeah. And they can't hear you for the grumpiness. So wait a minute now, but in that grumpiness, I would most of the time have a solution. So, but all they heard was my bitching. There goes the bitching again. I swear to goodness, you can just about time it when he's going to go to bitching again. Well, everybody set your watch. He's going to go to bitching again. So in that, you say, well, hang on. Is that really the kind of person that I am? And I had to look at myself in the mirror and look at other folks and go, oh, holy crap. Somehow I have turned into this grumpy person. And that's all that they can see. Grumpy and angry and mad and pissed off all the time. And so I was like, but that was only about certain things at certain times. That's not who I really am. So, but that's all that they could see or hear. And a lot of other things that I had done and was trying to do it was like la 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 la, because all they heard at first was grumpy. And then before I'd say anything, they'd say, well, here comes Dave. He's going to be grumpy again. So there was a period of time where I had to prove myself that when I spoke, I was going to speak with a level tone of voice. And even if somebody was pointing their finger and cussing and fuming at me, I was going to just say, and I was going to stay calm. And it's really good, because when you show out in response to somebody else's grumpiness, that just makes you look worse. It makes everybody feel worse, feel bad, and everybody goes, away with a bad taste in their mouth kind of thing. So it's like, so the end run of this thing, and we all know we're in this really strange time. So how do we deal with the strange times? Well, if we're grumpy all the time, well, this just pissed me off. Okay, well, and then, but it's your whole day's that way. And then it makes tomorrow is pissy then for you. And you say, well, goodness gracious, well, and this, and Trump said, and Biden said, and this person, and that person, and it's like, okay, and anger here, and grumpiness there, and, pointing fingers, and, okay. Excuse me, I have drippy nose. I take a half of Benadryl 3 times a day because of all the pollen and stuff down here. And right now they're defoliating the cotton and stuff. And so it's just in the air. I've had the windows closed for a couple of days now to try to just recirculate the air in the house. But, and that's getting a little stale, but, it's better to recirculate the air in the house than it is to breathe the defoliant that's on the cotton right now. Anyway, so, but going back to the topic of the, see, I could be very grumpy about that. And over the years, I have been grumpy about the defoliant and what they do with the cotton, and the fact that, they spray it right up by the road. They spray it over people's houses. I was driving down the road one going into Moultrie, and I hear this airplane, and I used to think, wow, them cotton dusters, well, I wanted to be one. Had met a family that not too far from where I live here, went to school with him when I went back to Votech, and, his family ran a crop dusting place and this and that. And had I not had, epilepsy, they was going to take me on, and I was going to learn, because I already knew about airplanes. They were going to teach me to fly and all that kind of thing, and I could crop dust for them, fill in. Well, anyway, but then I found out just how bad that stuff really is, and the fact that so this airplane comes over the road and sprays the truck, sprays the road. It's the overfeed, right, and goes up, and man, but I couldn't get away from the smell, couldn't get away from the toxic noxious. And, and it messes with my head big time. I will be conked out in like a minute if I don't get out of that smell or can get, a good clean breath of fresh air, which was like about a mile down the road. And so I consider it very dangerous in that respect. So, it's gotten better over the years, but they still spray, that defoliant and all this other stuff around. And, I live here, so I have to kind of put up with it, and bitching about it will just get you killed, because these are the farmers' livelihoods. And everywhere around here, somebody's growing cotton or something. So everybody's an enemy in that respect. So I've learned to just shut my mouth and tolerate it. At times before, when I could drive, and any respectable reason I could get out of Dodge, even if it was on a weekend or something, I would go north or somewhere or far enough south that, we were out of the cotton spraying district. But being a grumpy old man, you see, but in that, it's also the lesson that being grumpy all the time about it. Well, I got in touch with people, and I got in touch with this person. But the thing is, the system is so big. This one little old person down here squeaking and hollering, jumping up and down. Now, they were a lot of other people that I found out later on that we had like one place to bitch about it. But enough had been done to where they decided to change the formula of some of this cotton defoliant. and doesn't smell near as bad. It still takes the leaves off the bushes and leaves the cotton. But anyway, but being grumpy. So being grumpy about this and being grumpy about that and wanting to kick somebody's ass and, they have no right to hold me down. Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. And it has come up with myself and also I've been talking with my daughter about another person. But anyway, we were discussing the idea of sovereignty. And this is a grumpy thing to talk about. And it's that, yes, there have been a lot of rules and stuff changes. And yes, but there are two different constitutions. There is the Constitution before 1860 or 71 or something like that. Anyway, and where we became a corporation. And yes, we should go back to the original Constitution. And yes, there are a lot of other things. And there are a lot of things like in common law. But under the current set of circumstances, if you were to declare yourself a sovereign being and try to go through court and pull all this common law stuff, you're going to end up in jail. Because the more you talk about your sovereignty, the more you're going to piss them off because you're trying to go against their club. Well, I think we should do that. Go ahead. But where's it going to get you? It's going to get you in a heap of trouble. So what you should do, instead of all this grumpiness, now I went through this, you see, several years and a lot of study, and and the Vatican holds our birth certificate and everything comes out of Rome, more or less, in a lot of ways, yes. But there are lots of treaties that go way back beyond the Romans and the Vatican. But here's the deal. Regardless of what the big oligarchs and the power folk are, regardless of what they've done, we're still down here where we are, okay? We're not a part of that. Don't want to be. So what is our purpose in life? To be grumpy all the time about it? Or like be somebody this old guy that I've known a few old people in my life, and he said, it just don't do no good to complain, son, because it'll just ruin your day. And I was like, what? Yeah, but that was me as a youngin'. And now I look back and what am I talking about? It doesn't really do any good to complain. Now, that doesn't mean that if there is a cause that really needs to be discussed, we discuss it. But you just sit around and bitch about it all day long. And, well, them folks there, and and every time I think about it, it makes me mad. And you go into this cycle and the circle and this loop, and all it is grumpiness and turns into anger and hatred. And it's all that negative energy. Yum, yum for some of them alien folk, So it's like, now, do we want to be grumpy? Or, do we want to find something in the middle of the grumpiness and go, listen, did you hear that guy on the news tonight? He was one grumpy mofo, wasn't he? Man, I was just, he was just on and on about this and that. And even though I agreed with him on some of it, I just had to laugh because he did look so silly standing up there going, this guy, they talked about Trump's hair and about how much they spent on his barber shop, or his barber had his hairdresser. Oh my God. You have to laugh about that. But the comical thing about the bigger picture is there are folks who are actually going to eat that stuff up. And that to me is even funnier. Wait, number one, they talked about it. Number two, there are people that go along with it. And number three, there are people that are going to think, and I have to look at the whole picture like Hawk does, and look at the whole picture and go, what's wrong with these people? It's hilarious. But if you're only looking at being grumpy, regardless of the subject, then your whole world is all you will see is the grumpiness. And what do I mean by that? Well, that thing over there, that ticks me off. Or I heard about this and did you know that blah, 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 blah? Yeah. Well, what does that end up making you? grumpy. They're being grumpy. Why? Well, I found out about, now this is not funny, but I found out about, the sex trafficking and the child stuff and how many kids and how many people and women in a year's time and one every something. And it's freaking me out. Yes. So we need to keep our eyes open. We need to make other people aware of the fact, but jumping up and down and being grumpy about it, nobody's going to hear you because you're being grumpy. It's not that the subject isn't important, or you understand. It is an important topic, but if you're going to be grumpy about it, people are, that's all they talk about is this, and I'm just sick and tired of hearing it. That's because it turns into grumpiness. So we want to be effective when we talk about things. We want to get our grumpiness out. But at the same point, we want to be able to look forward and say, it's still going on, but there are more people aware. So yes, this is a tragic event, but more people. And if you talk to somebody and see some child or young person or something, if you know something, then you become more aware. And you tell your friends, and it's not to be scared, but keep your eye out. And if you see something fishy, take a picture or something, if it doesn't, later on, it might not matter. But years ago, when I was a kid, they didn't have anything like that. And if you got picked up by a stranger and got toted off somewhere, which happened to me, but the thing is though, that at the end of it, I don't know if I ever told that, but there you go. Truth comes out even in the middle of something. But, it could have turned out a whole lot worse for me. And so it's better off that, okay, but could I have been snatched or taken or something? Now, I would have done my best to get away. And I was working on a plan, but having been there, done that, and having come close to some really creepy stuff, I got drugged one time, actually 2 times, but one of them was deliberately to, make me an instrument sex toy. And so that just was not funny at all. I had been roofied by a man, and that was just not up my alley at all. But the idea, though, that so I can understand many different layers of things and a lot to be grumpy about. But what I would rather do is say, look, we need to be aware of these types of things. And you say, well, did you have a feeling before you went to that party that something might be up? And I look back on it and I go, I just should have said no about going to that party. And then I got roofied. And, they thought it was funny. And I did not. And it's been a long time, actually, since I remembered that. It's one of those lockdown memories. But in there, though, it's important that these things that we suppress or depress, lots to be grumpy about, would much rather look towards something in the future tomorrow, regardless of what the situation is. Now, I don't have a clue what tomorrow's going to bring. Partly cloudy with a chance of showers. We got showers in the area. That storm's coming out of the Gulf, so we'll get some rain over the next few days, and the weather's warmed up. Dang it. But, winter will come soon enough. But our choices in what we do and what we choose to be grumpy about, it's okay to be grumpy for that 5 minutes, Now, if you're going to talk to folk and you want to get a point across, get your grumpiness out 5 minutes before you have your conversation with them. Go ahead and go in the closet or sit in the car and be grumpy for a few minutes and then go, okay, now let me go in here. I got that out of my, let me go in here and whatever. And I'm going to be only slightly grumpy, Oh, okay. You mean you can be slightly grumpy? Yeah, you can be slightly grumpy, but then end it in laughter. Because once you get your anger out, you can look at the picture from a different point of view and you can go, well, you know what? Parts of that, it's ludicrous and absurd. And it's like, yes, it's tragic in ways, but at the same time, we just got to go, man, what the hell is that, and shrug our shoulders and go on. I mean, no, I ain't talking about a train wreck, okay, or something like that. No, that's not. I'm talking about politics and goofy stuff that he said, she said, blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm talking about. Now, there are some events that happen that I got to say, not in a laughing matter, but as an observer, I look at it and go, nah, ain't that some shit, but that's a whole different category other than being grumpy. The oh shit category is different than being grumpy. Now, there is a distinction because there are times when I go, oh shit, damn. But it doesn't make me grumpy, But there are some stuff that I go past the oh shit stage and I'm like, you mofo, we going and the grumpy is like 100%. You don't just build up to it like shit. So what you have to do in this grand scheme of what's going on with this chaos is, by all means, you can have different layers of grump. You know what I'm saying? So there is that, well, shit, and leave it there, or, well, shit, I'm going to be more grumpy. Now I'm going to go into that second stage. It's like shifting gears into 5-speed. You just getting going good, Get that engine revved up so you can shove it into third, Ooh, it's that shoving it that'll get you to. And then you'll get into the punching mode and want to go into fourth. And if you got a fifth gear, yum. So anyway, and if you don't get what you want when you get into fifth gear, you're going to be grumpy as hell. Now you're going really fast being grumpy. Now, so you've taken this grumpiness from walking along in the sidewalk, walking the dog. Duggar's home and asleep on the couch there. But then there is that time when you're going 1,000,000 miles an hour in your spaceship in fifth gear, cramming that grumpiness to the nth degree, to where Einstein said, wait, I didn't think we could go that fast. So we have leapt into a quantum leap of grumpiness to where now we're grumpy with the universe, and we are connecting that grumpiness to old grumpies from way past and evil grumpies. So we wish in our silent septitude of our demise, think to ourselves, well, I have the right to be grumpy. Yeah, okay. Now, has any of this made you grin just a little bit? I hope so. But in my wackiness and craziness, I realized that, there's all this grump out there, right? And I like, I was having this like sort of a Grinch stole Christmas kind of thing, Halloween is coming, children, and the grump will be out. Jumping, sniveling, sniveling here and jumping all about. Mr. Grump, Mrs. Grump, him and her and them. Chase you up and down the streets from here and yonder and back again. Now that's freestyle poetry right there. But so here we are with grumpiness. So now it's contagious. You go in the room and there's somebody in the room and they're being on the grump side. So it's like, always on the grumpy side, always on the grumpy side, being on the grumpy side of life, So if you're in that sort of mood, somebody will go, yeah, but I'm grumpy. Yeah, but you're being grumpy with like a really happy tune. What? Yeah, that's the happy grumpies. Oh, no, you didn't. You got the happy grumpies? Well, let me pee my pants first and maybe do a little bit of squirt poo, and then I'm glad I'm wearing my Depends. So, and now they have underwear that you can just like wet in and walk around and nobody knows because it's so absorbent, it might take off a man's testicles in a couple of years. They haven't said anything about that yet. But if you're old like me, yeah, you're going to really need them much longer. But that's another story. So here we are with the happy grumps, and there are people over there like, man, that hairdo on her, she looks like shit. Bless her heart. And, those are the happy grumps because they're always grumping and grumbling about something. And you wonder if they didn't have, that maybe they should take a laxative to get some of that out of them, because it seems like it's way up in there. And, bending over and squatting just ain't going to do no good. And for them folk in the old days with a latrine where you had to go out the house and down the trail, usually to the back, and open that little door with the half moon on it and crouch yourself over a piece of board and wonder what was down in that hole and the smell. Oh, goodness gracious! You wished for wintertime. You might have got your bottom a little frozen, but you didn't have to put up with the smell from the summertime, nor the flies, or anything else that might want to come up out of that hole after your happy ass. So it's like, we grumpify about things, but, back in the day, there was enough grump to go around. It would have took half a Sears catalog of grumpiness to get rid of that shit. If you're old enough to follow that little bit of a, anyway, so moving right along here. So now those of us who are in our grumpy stages, and I was grumpy early on. I was like practicing, right? Because when I get older, I got the right to be grumpy, and I'll just be damn grumpy and then I realized, oh, holy crap. I got family members that I remember. And I'm like, he was grumpy. My grandmother on the north side. Oh, what a witch she was. I mean, and so play both sides of that card game, let me tell you. You know, cheating to win and winning to cheat. I mean, anyway. But so to me, not a nice lady. But there are other grumpy women that thought Miss Catherine was just fine, and I was like, don't want to be around her. She just what she did to us grandkids, what she did to her own children, and I'm just nope, sorry, that she was not a nice lady, and she went to church all the time, and it made her grumpy, And unfortunately, she lived to be about 80 years old or so. She outlived her husband, which to his benefit, he got out of there quick. Or soon, anyway. But in this whole grumpiness attitude, we just need to stop. We need to just stop, sit down on the porch, as they used to say. Don't even go in the house. And if you're going to feel grumpy, you leave it out here on the porch. You do not take it onto the porch. You sit down on the steps. You don't bring it near the house. That's as far as you get. But you get that grumpiness out, period. You leave it out here, Go out in the stable and put up the horse or the mule or park your car or something but leave that grumpiness out there. Don't you bring that in. Take your boots off and stomp them at the door, boy. And don't you bring that grumpiness in this house. I'll tan your hide. Go get me a switch, is what they used to say around here. So, but in this of grumpiness, where it is contagious and people have handled it differently down through the years. And now he's like, well, he's grumpy. And what'd you say? Huh? What's wrong? I don't know. Can't hear you. Got my headphones on. What? Okay. Yeah, that's how you get rid of the grumpies. You ignore everybody and everything. Oh my goodness. So then there's those folks who ignore the grumpies and who literally don't have a clue. And I sometimes wondering, they don't have a clue. Have they been sniffing glue? Because their eyes, whether green or blue or brown or black, they don't seem to have what they need. They are in lack of something. What it is, I don't know. I don't know whether they're not taking the right vitamins, if it's the toothpaste they're using, if they're injecting some, some steroids or not, and whether or not they have been, dipping into the cooking sherry in the refrigerator, you know, whether or not they've been taking a little bit of, sniffing of something here and there, who knows? Um, I knew this lady. She, I'm all a jitter. I'm all a jitter. Got to go to the powder room. Got to go to the powder room. Got to. Okay, calm down. Into the powder room she go. And hear this. Sometimes it was really loud, like, like, whoa. Did somebody turn on the Hoover vacuum cleaner in there? It's, wait a minute. Oh, that's not the hand dryer. And she'd be coming out, going like this. She'd go, I just snorted me a Valium. And our eyes would be blinking, and she'd be doing this number here. And I feel better already. Let's have some coffee. I'm like, you did what? Yeah, I just snorted a 20 milligram Valium. I had to went in there and crushed it up, and she's wiping her nose. I'm like, okay. But there was a time, not Valium, that I was sort of in that category. So I can understand. And to get out of the grumpies, we took drugs. I don't want to be grumpy, man. So we were snorting stuff left and right. Probably one of the reasons why my nostrils are shot at this age. But that's another thing to be grumpy about. I shouldn't have been a drug addict. Well, okay. But what are we now? Well, we're not as grumpy. Oh, we're going to be part of the grinning grumpy crowd. What you talking about, Hawkeye? The grinning grumpies, the ones that are, I think you're an asshole. I think you messed up. I'm going to be a grinning grumpy, a grumpy grinner, So, or we can just look at the whole mess and go, what you talking about, Willis? And say, what are we going to do about this? What we do about this is for them grumpies, and they're, like we have discussed, there are different levels of this grumpy, that we make sure that, wait a minute, now if somebody's in a particular mood, in a particular tone of voice, you can go, that's it being grumpy. And you can laugh about it now. And you go, I remember when Dave was talking about grumpy. That's a grumpy right there. Well, what category grumpy? Well, I don't know, but his last session of being grumpy, he got a 9.5 from the judges sitting on the couch. And the dog even wagged his tail 10 times. So I think it was damn near a perfect score. So, grumpy. Now, we all need to laugh. And I think in my time as being a puppeteer and a storyteller, I find myself, thinking back, I miss the times of going out and telling stories with the puppets and making folk laugh, right? And that how much joy it gave me. Now, there were times when I got paid pretty well for it, but there were other times where I just wanted to be there. I was very selfish in that because I wanted to perform. I wanted to make people laugh. And my guilty side was I got so much joy out of hearing the laughter. So I'm helping to create the laughter, but the laughter is in and of itself bringing me joy. So one could say I was a laughing vampire because I craved laughter. That the hearing of people laughing and little kids, wiggling on the ground and wetting their pants and shit. I mean, I can still have these little memories and these little video clips of children and people and stuff over the years. And I think to myself, what a much better thing to do and that's why in my transitional phase as into old age, I can't travel like I did, haven't traveled like I did. And so it's, but what do I wish to bring to the table still? Laughter. I still want to bring some laughter, and even though I might be discussing a particular topic, I'm going to try to find something somewhere. It might take me 2 hours to get there, but I'm going to try to find something to laugh about, or joke about, or, what are you talking about? You hear me? Sarah, put that down. What was that? Sarah Lee, you pull up your drawers. Don't out there in that tater patch. Don't you know taters have eyes? That kind of thing. So um, that'll take away the grumpies. But listening to the old men talk, and I mean back in the day, now this was the late, from the mid 60s on, listening to old men tell stories, especially me being on the carnival that traveled to South, I got a chance to meet a lot of old white men and black men. And some of the stories that if there was a white man and a black man sitting on the same bench or on the porch, their stories would, yeah, I remember when, Adeline had a problem with her mule like that. Kicked the living daylights out of her and sent her to the back of the barn. Yeah, you remember old Doc Hadley? Yeah, old Doc Hadley had to come out there, and all she could give him was eggs for a week and a couple of hens. Yeah, I remember. Oh, that Doc Hadley, he was a great guy. And so they would tell these stories, even though they lived, well, not too far apart from each other, but, and back in them days, the poorer white folk were on the same economic level as a halfway decent sharecropping farmer of black folk. And they would share each other and help each other out, as well as work for the big man. So in this grumpiness of things, there's always going to be another boss. If you make a product or something like that, you're gonna and you want to get money for it rather than just make it. You can give them away, and somebody might donate something to you, or you can try to sell it. Well, that's trying to bargain. That means you have to go out and put yourself out, and that includes having some grumpiness go along with that. Well, I put how many hours into this thing that I made, and you want me to sell it to you for $5? I've got 20 hours in that thing, and you're telling me I only work for 50 cents an hour? Well, you're handicapped, ain't you? But what's that got to do with it? I put 20 hours into this thing, and you only want to give me $5? At least give me $20. Let me work for $1 an hour. So, but people don't understand that. Then there's the other side of the coin. Oh, Charles, if it only costs $1,000, I don't want it. Oh, darling, you don't mean, well, the price tag on this is only $9.50. It must cost over 1,000. Otherwise, the girls at the garden club will think that I've been going to the flea market. Oh, Jonesy, put it, add another $50 to it, and here's a $200 tip, so I can tell the ladies at home that I spent $1,200 on this painting. I know people like this, or used to at least. So some of these things that I'm telling you are actually true stories of events and things that I've heard from folks, because I was the servant and I was the underling. And yes, sir, boss man. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, no, ma'am. Yes, 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 um. But and it didn't pay to be grumpy. Okay, just to keep on track with that. So in this idea of grumpiness, going towards the future, in this next, 30 days ish, 28, 29 days, who's counting, right? Um, it's just going to get more interesting. Now, I say go to the store early and buy up your candy corn, okay, or whatever other favorite Halloween candy there is. Stash it under the bed in a box so the mice don't get it, and and save up, because it's going to be an interesting show, and we may all want to be on a really good sugar high. which means have your popcorn too. But and use for real butter for God's sakes instead of that margarine stuff. It will cholesterol in you, and you will turn into a plastic statue of yourself, inside and out. Cholesterol, pooey, go with the butter. It came from a cow, not a machine. Just saying. Um, and that actually is true. If I was going to be grumpy about butter, I'd say eat the butter, but just don't eat a bunch of it. But if you think that near butter is it clogs up your system, well, I use it's almost butter. Well, if it's almost butter, then it's some kind of vegetable oil that has been whipped into a frenzy. And so you are, eating oil, and it's like, and then but it tastes almost like butter. Yeah, but it's margarine, so it's mar in a jar with an IN, hang on. So eat the butter. Give yourself that extra flavor and eat the butter, for crying out loud. Another thing to be grumpy about, real butter on my popcorn, please. Now, the salt, we can vary. Sea salt, this salt, that salt, cry in your beer salt, who knows? Take the salt off of peanuts, I don't care, but put salt on your popcorn. And jujubes, well, it's almost, it's almost a necessity to have jujubes. Now, if we're going to watch the show for the next 30 days ish, I would say, once in a blue moon on Halloween, we've had several once in a blue moons. That's when you have two full moons in the same month. So the blue moon is coming up on the 31st. Now, we all do know that there are a lot of people who use that day and a day before and sometimes after, but usually up to that day, to call upon some wicked, mean, and bad and nasty things. Now, we can grump about it, or we can go, nah, we are going to send our prayers to the good side. Now, I seriously doubt that most of us have the complete knowledge yet of how to actually stop an entity from entering through a wormhole, okay? But can we send out good energy to maybe change some of these folks' mind to where they don't call the entities, they don't ask them to come through, or something is thwarted in the grand scheme of things? So we can, I would rather pray for a monkey wrench in the machine rather than to try to stop the evil. You know what I'm saying? So if I was going to have a prayer to stop the evil, I'd go, I wish for a monkey wrench to go into into the machine. And that will, because then, you kind of leave it up to the universe to take, whatever action comes out of that. But so it's like, somebody's talking about they're cranking up CERN again and this, that. Well, I just, I don't want it to blow up, but maybe there could just be a, well, weasels got in and ate some wires one time. So maybe we could all pray for weasels, to screw up the machine. So on the 31st, when this Halloween is really active, we all holler Wayne and try to maybe create a frequency that whatever is trying to come through goes, oh, hell no, I ain't going there, you know. And it could be a higher frequency. It just could be a crazy frequency. It could be that we have all turned grumpiness on its side or end, or butt upward, if that were the case, with a flag sticking out, mind you. Imagine that, a butt sticking up with a little tiny flag going, do, 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 do. I ain't grumpy no more. I have taken the vow to push grumpiness to its limits and shove it off a cliff and go, see you later, alligator, after a while, crocodile, and see what happens in the universe. Now, why is this video important to you? Because there are things that are going to be coming up that are going to be so flat out weird, you're going to just go, what? And just remember, old Dave Hawkeye was having this conversation, just warning y'all about the grumpies and the different levels of the grumpies. And what we can do with these grumpy SOBs and sons of, we can put them in their place and in their category, and we can make fun of them. We can joke about them. And we go, oh, he's a grumpy. He's a farting grumpy. Did you hear that? He said, pull my finger. And then he got all really grumpy. And then there was a brown spot left in the chair when he got up, Oh my God, it's the grumpies. They're leaving, some of these grumpies are leaving stains. You know what I'm saying? So, take your 409 and a cloth, just in case. But and they might leave a little pee stain. Sometimes that happens, but you just want to grump so bad that whoops, there goes something down the leg I had not intended on. I thought I went to the bathroom before I got here. Well, I guess I don't have to go now. I'll just, pretend I don't smell like pee. So, but and that will make you grumpy. You see what I'm saying? We change it, turn it around, and go, I see that chaos coming down the track. I ain't seen such chaos since I don't know when I got back. There's cheating on the lines of the Folsom Prison Blues, but sounds like a song in there. But in this chaos and in this craziness, spelled with a K, KKK, colossally crazy chaos, just leave it at that. But in that, we understand we're not going to participate. We just say no. And regardless of the grumpiness, we're going to stay in that positive attitude. With Halloween coming up, we're going to try to take, instead of being drawn in, well, there's going to be a lot of people doing it. Doesn't matter. But there's going to be a lot of people. I know. Quiet. Let's not give them any more energy than they're already getting. But they're going to be doing Halloween, and there's in their sacrifice, and we have to stay above that and out of that realm. Because if we start worrying about it or hanging out or going to that side, all we need to know is it happens. And some of us don't, but most of us here don't. We don't want that. So, but if we focus on it, and there's this was years ago, I was discussing with a couple of shamans, but it came up and I was in training and I was asking questions and trying to get clarification with some things. And I said, I understand that there are shadow beings, when you're doing, well, not necessarily only when you're just doing ceremonies, but that they kind of come and see the light and want to hang out. And the answer has always been, there are those that will not be named. What? Well, who are they? They will not be named. Well, but what are they? They won't be discussed and they won't be named. But who are they? Where'd they go? They're. Are you listening to me? If I could talk about it, I would tell you they are not to be named. And they look at me and go, do you understand, Dave? They are not to be named. Oh, so they're really bad. Uh-huh. And because right, no more. Oh, we're not going to name them, ain't going to discuss them. And if you see one, you'll know. And later on, I was like, I don't know if that really was that particular one that you don't want to mention, and so we can well, what is it? And we can keep questioning when the answer is you don't want to discuss it at all. But they're there. So, but that's it. Your awareness, and you just tuck it away. Well, who are they? Are they going to get you or what? Stop it. Because the more you talk about it and who they might be, could be, would be, you will manifest them. So that is not what we wish to do. What we wish to do is to put positive energy out there. So if somebody tries to take you on the journey of all the nastiness Halloween represents, just go, I understand, and leave it. And you want to get your mind off of the nasties and right onto the positive. You do not want to dwell on any of the, well, the Satanists are doing this and the devil worship. Don't mention it. Don't discuss it. We all know it's there. So now, if you want to talk about it next week before Halloween, you could warn folks, but then you keep out of using names. Just say the dark force, the evil side, the bad side, but don't be talking about who and naming names and Beelzebub. No, because then you give power to those names. And even though you say, well, that wasn't my intention, but there you go. So, but if you're going to think about, well, people might be doing it, they've got some of your energy because you're worrying about it. See, so we know it's there. We see that it's there, and we just take ourselves out of that and keep ourselves in the light. Now, there will be those people who will absolutely are, no, you have to focus on those evil sons of bitches and you have to do this. No, what we need to do is focus on positive energy in the universe to help suppress it, stop it, throw a monkey wrench in them portals, have somebody get laryngitis so they can't repeat the spells. Who knows? But that we if we actively try to defeat them or quote stop them, a flat tire could really, not kill them or, but it could stop them from getting here. You know what I'm saying? So we need to look in terms of what can we do. I wish them to have a flat tire. You know what I'm saying? Well, if I don't want to stop all this, well, if they have a flat tire on the freeway or get stuck on a railroad track, that might take care of it. You know what I mean? But so our demands, we don't collectively have the right togetherness, okay, where those folks in the dark arts have a playbook that they go by, okay, so they're reciting things. For us, we don't do that, and we shouldn't really, but we just keep in a higher level of thinking and say, I'm going to stay out of the grumpiness. And that's the first part. Get that grumpiness out and then go, okay, we know that XYZ is happening. Now, that's the realization. And we jump to a higher level and go, I'm going to use my energy as clean and pure as it is. Because if your energy is tainted with some of these negative thoughts, then you ain't really got good vibes going out. It's mixed and it's colored and discolored. So if you really want your energy to be right, then in some of the things that I've done with some of the ceremonies, you start 2 days ahead in the thinking process and how it's you're gonna look. You can hear the drum in your head. You start getting the dance and how your feet are gonna feel on the ground and how it's gonna feel to go around the fire and the. So I can kind of get a little glimpse of it just sitting here doing that right there. So, but you put forth your effort 2 days in advance. Now, what do I mean by this about Halloween? If you think all these nasty things are going to happen, don't dwell on them, but say, man, them folks with the devil thingies and do it 2 days ahead of time and get those words out of your system so that the day that it counts most, you will already know who you're talking about. So it's the names we shall not mention. The names those we shall not name. So, but we know who they are. We don't have to talk about them. We just go, is that one of those? Oh, okay. So we know they're there. So instead of being fearful, you're aware and you don't give them any energy and you keep your energy strong as a brave or as a, a native princess, you know, to know that you stay strong. Um, Now, here's a caveat. Does that mean you're going to get away every time? There could be dire consequences. But if you stay true and don't give them the energy, be aware of them. Don't let them literally trip you up so you fall down a crevasse or off a cliff. But, or, sink into quicksand or something, which, you know, if you're in a deep woods and stuff, and, you need to consider the energies and the critters and those that should not be named, um, just in case. So you give respect and honor. So regardless of who they are, even though you're not going to name them or even give them a thought, you're still giving them respect and honor in that you don't like who they are, but you know that honor is maybe by fear, but you're still going to honor it and respect it. So anyway, and we pulled a card the other night, something about one of them. But anyway, so with being grumpy and being in laughter, we should all just, look at these next few months and just try to find something to laugh about. And and I know there's going to be times I'm going to look at the stuff and want to just cry. I know I am going to weep and I'm going to cry and I'm going to hold my hands like this and go, dear God, what has happened? And then I'm going to get over it. You know what I mean? Because that's just what we got to do. Because if it's going to be that bad, then that means we're going to have to, if nothing else, we're going to have to be ready to adapt. Oh my God. So you can't beat the man, but you can always say, like I discussed when I was in prison, I am a sovereign being. Yes, I'm being held in jail, but I am who I am. And no matter what, you can't take that away from me. You can throw me in solitary, you can throw me in population, but I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to, regardless. So I am a sovereign being, regardless of who else believes it. Well, I want the government to know. Why? You're just going to stir shit up. Don't. If you believe you're a sovereign being, then you are. If you say, well, I'm a slave to the government. Well, I used to think that way. I get my government check now. I earned it. It's not something that they just, well, no, I earned it. I put money into the system, damn it. So this idea of, what's the word? Entitlement. I'm entitled to this money. You damn right I am. I put 50 odd years in Social Security into this. I was 13 years old when the first time they took money out for my Social Security. That was in the mid 60s, and I'm 68 now. So, but wait a minute, but that's entitlement money. No, that's my Social Security insurance. Don't do that shit. No. And somebody that has a disability, now there are folks who are drawing, Social Security type money, and they never paid a dime in. And I'm just against that because they're taking it out of the Social Security money. What they should do is take it out of a different fund. But years ago, they combined it. They started taking Social Security money out and putting it into the general fund, if you will, for the poor people and for the this people and the that people. No. No, that's like a trust fund, and if you aren't in the trust, then you don't get the funds. And if I've been paying in Social Security, then I'm part of the trust. But anybody that ain't part of the trust don't get none of that money. You can give money from another fund, but don't take it out of mine or my brothers and sisters and cousins and other folk. No. Get off of that stuff. See, now I'm being grumpy. But see, how much can I do of this? Complain to my congressman, complain to my senator, Oh, but they're going to give us another raise this year. Ooh, I got $11.32 raise last year per month. Oh boy. Oh man, well, I bought 3 loaves of bread, roughly 2.5 loaves of bread, and some cheese. So, boy, what a raise! I was supposed to be getting $1,400 a month, and I don't even get 11. So they cut me right at the beginning. You'll say, well, we're not going back as far as we used to, and we're only going back this far, and what? Oh yeah, and Obama and Biden signed on to that too, right after they took office. So they're sort of, to blame for some of this. It started at the end of the Bush era, but it ended up, and they signed it into law. So, so much for what the Democrats have done for us. But anyway, they took away $350 a month out of my Social Security. See, I'm being grumpy now. But in this, has it done me any good to bitch about it? Nah. Has it done me any good to get grumpy about it? Nah. But I used to fixate on it. So the grumpies will give you an ulcer. The grumpies will make you a grouch. The grumpies will make you a Grinch, no doubt. So stop being grumpy now. Period. There you go. A little bit more rhyming along there. So I wish I had my harmonica. I can't find. I have like 7 harmonicas, one in each key and a couple of. I can't find a one. But anyway, I want to play the blues. Never mind. Anyway, I'm in a playful mood, I guess you could say, in that my brain is off into like, there's just been so much tension from so many ways and from so many people. And it was like things were so weird the other day. And I looked at the Schumann resonance and I thought to myself, the Schumann's got to be off the charts. And I looked and I went, no. So what's going on? And I think it's just that there were so many people that had the grumpies that it was just like being contagious. And I've said this in another video, not to repeat, but I do think I've thought about this since I discussed it, in that because we are all learning to be more psychically connected and spiritually connected, if enough people have the grumpies, then those of us who don't have the grumpies necessarily are going to kind of feel it in the air. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important to see it, have it, take enough time to understand it enough, and then just, okay, because you got to be the grown up in the room with yourself and go, this is really not worth my time. I see it, headlines in the news, iceberg falls off of Antarctica. Okay. But oh look, and there's a this and there's a submarines and UFOs. Okay. But didn't you see that? Well, yeah, I've read the headlines. But what do you think? What about this? What about that? It's cool if it's true and if the pictures are right. Did it really happen? Well, we studied this and we took pictures of, from the satellites of Antarctica. And that right there is where I start laughing. Do you honestly think that you're getting real pictures of the Antarctica? No. Think about it. Even the picture. Well, it says in the bottom down there, Google. Yeah, duh. You think they're going to show you tracks in the snow? Do you think you're going to be able to see footprints of Bigfoot? You think you're going to be able to see the UFOs? No. They've got that mess wiped out, knocked out, and otherwise, I've been there and I've done it. I've studied it. I went in, and one day there'll be something there, and the next day it won't. And you go, well, what'd they do? Move it? No, they just whitewashed it out. So, but I zoomed real in and I saw this thing. Yeah, did they put it there? But it's washed out. What happened to the shadows? Well, there's this. Now, understand this. I do believe there's stuff going on. My point is, you ain't seeing it. None of us are. Oh, but I saw it on Google. Oh, shut up. Be quiet. I look at the pictures on Google that are supposed to be updated, and I know because I live around here what the river looks like. And they will show a current picture of the river in a flooded stage when the actual stage of the Ochlockonee River is like 3 foot. And the pictures show the, because I'm looking at bridgers and so I'm zooming in close and looking, and it's the pictures say it's current. And no, it's not, because it's showing the river at a flooded stage. Oh, but Dave, that's the current picture. Nope. But it says right there in the bottom, I don't give a shit what it says down there in the bottom. That's not the current picture. I'll take you to the river and we will look at the river, and then you go and we'll come back to the house and look at the picture, and you tell me if that's what you saw. But sorry. So, oh, but I saw Antarctica and I saw this and I saw. No, you didn't. If you did, maybe. I think people just like to fudge with the rest of us. Hey, George, let's you and me put this little track over here and see if anybody catches it. Well, I saw this thing on down here on this and that. Yeah, sure you did. I'm sorry. So but I used to be one of those people. So understand this, and I used to be grumpy about it. We have to look at this stuff and go, hang on. We're not really thinking about this. But it's Google. That should tell you right there. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Would they ever really let us see anything down there? Ever? Well, I caught this thing. I have done it. I thought I had, and then realized somebody's just messing with me. It wasn't consistent. I would mark it and go back the next day and it wouldn't be the same. So I'm going, wait a minute. They didn't have a snowfall, or, the sky was clear, or, so whatever they're showing us, they ain't showing us. We don't see it. And they're not going to show it to us. They're the boss. They're the Googles, They're the grumpy Googles, like Barney Google back in the day with the googly eyes. Barney Google. So where does that put you and me? Heading towards Christmas, laughing all the way, ho, 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 because other than voting and being in person whenever and if we can, but the rest of it, just try to live a normal life. Yes, there are games we have to play, but it doesn't mean we have to accept them. This idea of fighting over the mask, if people are going to get so freaked out, I'm just going to put it on and be cordial, but I'm going to take it off immediately. So have they won? No, I'm going to be the bigger man and not argue. I'm going to play along. And when you understand that you are a sovereign being, even though you got to wear the mask, well, do you want to go to the guillotine or put on the rack? Well, no. Well, then wear it. Does it mean that you love the king and the queen? No. Do we wish that it would be like off with her head? Okay. But at the same time, so what do? We go, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, to our jailers, and we make hooch on the side. You see what I'm saying? So we pay attention where we have to. We play the game as necessary. And we look for loopholes and ways out any way that we can. I mean, the big time players do it, right? So, barter something, versus paying cash or having to do this or work out things with this and that. If you use your imagination and allow your imagination to come into you, the future is going to bring us a lot of different things. And one of the things it's going to bring is a different point of view. Because now everybody's, well, why don't you have it delivered? Well, because I live a quarter mile down this dirt track down here, and I live way out in the jungle, and the UPS guys will not drive down my driveway. And I'm like, they always leave my packages at the neighbors. And they say, well, your package is delivered. And I'm going, oh, hell no, it ain't. And then find out it's either up there or it's over here. So, and most of the time, nobody lives in this house. But so but oh, I could have things delivered and I could have that. But to me, now that's really giving in. Now, if there's just something I can't get, okay, deliver it, send it by mail. But now it's like everything. Well, I'm going to get dog food. I'm going to get this and I'm going to get that. And you're going to become a fat, lazy bum because now you don't even have to go to the store. Well, now I have more free time for myself. Yeah. And you're going to rely on somebody else to pack your stuff up, having no idea where it come from. I'd much rather go to the grocery store and see it. Well, it comes in these little packages. Sure, it does. It's vacuum sealed in plastic. And then it's like this and that. And this young couple, and I look at these, and the lady says, these dishes are so delicious. And I was like, well, I see some potatoes cut up, and it looks like carrots there on this thing, and a little rice over here, and a small piece of meat. And I'm like, you folks can't cook that yourselves. Oh, it's so convenient. What's going to happen now? People have already become dependent. I'm being grumpy. People have already become addicted to the convenience of things, to where you can't cut up a couple of potatoes and roast them in the toaster oven for a little bit and do with this and add it. Is it that hard that you have to buy these, and we prepare them together, they say in the commercial. And I'm going, it's potatoes and carrots. I don't know. Now, I don't know how much these meals, but they're making it sound like, oh my, we're cooking this together and how delicious it is. And I'm going, it's potatoes and carrots and a piece of hamburger meat, like not chopstick. They do, but anyway, and it's like, and some gravy. You can buy gravy mix in a pouch. You can make gravy with a little milk and a little this, and but people have forgotten how to do everything, and they have become so reliant on convenience. And now with the mask thing and everything, and well, it's just so convenient to just not go anywhere now. Well, I'm just going to stay home. Well, I don't want to go to the store. Look at how much more time I have to be a couch potato. I don't have to drive into town, and I don't have to walk through the store. I don't have to bump into people. I don't have to interact with anybody. I can just stay here. Smile. You're on candid camera. Now, I think sometimes when I feel like this, I think sometimes like I'm channeling a little bit of the hippy dippy postman, George Carlin. And I don't proclaim to be him, but in the humor that I hear it sort of as George Carlin would hear this, or like, look about this, and is this dumb or not, and are we the morons, they're the morons to try to sell it to us. But I mean, my God, in my lifetime, we had pet rocks, okay? Pet rocks. And I mean, they were just rocks that said pet rock, with a little thing. What? No, okay, so there are trolls, the little trolls and the little thingies. I've got some of those things back in the day, and I used to have the whole set of the raisins. They were little plastic guys about this tall. And I have certain collectibles here at the house, but with this though, so much has changed in my lifetime. But then I see, like in the past 5 years, the past 10 years, comparatively speaking, whatever's going on with our timelines, which is also making people more grumpy. There was Humpty Dumpty, and then there was his brother, Humpty Grumpity. Okay. Humpty Grumpity sat on a wall. Humpty Grumpity watched his brother fall. Humpty Grumpity, with all the horses and king's men, looked down and said, well, there you go, dear brother. You did it again, So Humpty Grumpity, there you go. Whacked out fairy tales from Hawkeye Two Feathers, you know. But in some of this, I want us to look at some of the insanity, and I also want to try to get you to giggle a little bit and have a good day, because with all the grumpiness, and in all seriousness, we got to keep our stuff together, because they're going to try to make us whacked out, sacked out, and going to try to hang us out to dry. There are going to be those people. Now you watch, you mark my words, y'all, that very soon here it's going to pick up. The YouTube and people and stuff are going to be talking about the evil of Halloween and what they do, and we got to pray. You watch. And I'm saying we already know it's coming, so let's prepare for the light instead, because we know the darkness is going to try their shit again. So, why get our panties in a bunch? We just say, yeah, they're going to try, but us light workers are going to be prepared ahead of time. Yep. We're going to always on the positive side, staying on the positive side, keeping on the positive side of life. I'm stealing all kinds of songs tonight, ain't I? But in the universe, there is so much crap going on. Arguing going on and fighting going on. And I mean, spaceship blowing up spaceships and weird anomalies and strange energies. But for you and me and the rest of our crew here, we can realize that if we can be grumpy for a short time, but understand that the more power that we gain as spiritual beings, that grumpiness can be heard by the rest of us. And the last thing I wish to do, and I know y'all do, is to pass on any grumpiness. So it will happen without you knowing it. So this is sort of a warning of sorts that folks are going to try you to join their grumpiness. Got to stay out of it. You know what I mean? It's a must. Hi, Michelle. Okay, now I'm going to read some of the chat and see who's here. I hope this has been entertaining, if nothing else. Brandy, how are you? Many gods were actually cataclysms between the planets when they changed positions. Oh, and it's much more than that, Brandy. I mean, but yeah, there's just so much more. For folks who limit the idea of these planets and going on, there are spaceships that are the size of planets. And we have to add that to the equation. And in so many instances, science and people, they do not want to add that. Everything has got to be some kind of natural event. Not necessarily. There are other things beyond this Earth's current mainstream science that just ain't being told. We've been given little glimpses of things, but we have to understand the great big picture. There is stuff out there that's like Star Trek. And we have to understand that, it's got to be these planets doing this, that. We do have technology to see that kind of stuff. But what's happening is, it's Planet X. And I used to be a Planet X person. So I speak from experience. But in all the studies that I did with my telescopes and trying to spot, it's right there in Ophiuchus. No, I think it's like, Ophiuchus, ha, 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 get the joke. But there are still people believe that Planet X is stuck in Ophiuchus, but it was supposed to have traveled X amount of distance in X amount of years, and it should be over here. Well, now it's like, where is it? Well, it's still there somewhere. It's in Ophiuchus, they keep saying. But where? They haven't seen it, and if it's moving, then it should have moved. So where's it at? Well, we think it's right about here. We think it's right about here. Oh, because there's a strange anomaly out there. Well, then it must be Planet X. But see, going back to the day, they were looking for spaceships we have landed on an asteroid and it was hollow and pinged and sounded like metal. When they tried to land on it the first time, the thing bounced off. Remember that? Remember that? Not too long ago. But it was a comet. It was a thing. No, it wasn't. Was there any ice on it? No. Was there anything else? No. But there was a static charge that I've been talking about for years. There is no ice on comets. That's not what they're made of. That's not what happens in the universe. But they are still telling that lie. So, but of this thing, they make us think in the box. Well, it must be a planetary object. Why? Well, because it must be, because you don't believe in aliens or any other kind of phenomena. Well, no, it's got to be a rogue planet. It's got to be this. Why? Well, because that's what it's got to be. So they get us all to believe in that's what it's got to be. And there's more to the universe than all of that. It just is. So, and they won't talk about it, won't tell you about it, but in the secrets and the vaults and some of the things that came out of the WikiLeaks way back in the day, about 5 years or so ago, I was going through some of the miscellaneous items, and they have been keeping top secret since the 50s, exotic metals. Think about this. Since the 50s, they have been making exotic metals and have been keeping how they make it, the properties of them, a secret. And not just one or two, but a bunch. And I'm like, and that was from then. That's what they disclosed. That's what they said. Yeah, okay, we'll let y'all see this stuff. What's still being classified? What is still being considered top secret? So if you think you know the whole picture, there's a lot more. And when you start, you don't have to know the ins and outs of it to understand, oh, holy crap, it is true. It really does exist. You can see them on the LASCO C2 and C3 satellites. You can see the spaceships crossing across and doing the darting and the this and the that. Those aren't asteroids. Those aren't comets. Those are spaceships, But everybody, but it's a near-Earth object. Not Holland, but like that. No. And besides that, look at that vapor trail that's leaving across the screen that looks like Star Trek. It looks like the Enterprise. So, you have to look at things and go, wait a minute. Not everything can simply be explained by some kind of rogue planet or some kind of something. They're there. I understand that, but there's a lot more going on. Brandy says, most people don't know there was a meteor in the sky for 30 days during the Black Plague. Then it wasn't a meteor by the terms of being a meteor. I'm not saying that they weren't doing biological warfare then too. And they were. We may be living on a dead dragon. When you compare our sun to the size of others and the fact things come out through the portholes, it's not hard to believe. Exactly. If you've seen them things come out, them big round balls that come out of the sun, the suns, not every sun, but a lot of the suns are actually portals. So how do you get from point A to point B? You go through the portal in the sun to another destination. And so, well, you can't get through it. You can't do this. And yeah, but listen. Oh, you can't get through the Van Allen belt to get to the moon. Well, when you see a spaceship that just appears and then shoots into the sky and you go, aren't those people dead? That as fast as it disappeared, aren't all those people dead in there? Didn't they just go like get sunk to the floor and can't hold on the G-force? No, because they know stuff we don't. That's the answer. They know stuff we don't. Well, most of us don't know. And they're not telling us. So are there black projects? Yeah. There was a thing that I heard. Ronald Reagan was really into saving the planet. And there have been some more things. And I mean, in black and white, he was sort of talking about what John F. Kennedy was talking about the secret, societies, and that there is more on this, in this universe. And that there are other things, and that we should be, come together as brothers and sisters because there is a bigger problem. And if they came from outer space, that all of the nations on the planet would gather together to work together. So Ronnie, as goofy as he might seem, was working for the good side, and he was part of the disclosure that's been going on for a long time. So it's like people have been talking about it, and important people, and other folks are like they're playing along with the thing. But there's just so much more in the science area they're not telling us because they're a bunch of grumpy pods. They're grumpy pods. They don't want to tell us the truth. And like, well, we came up with this really exotic metal. We found this huge, meteor somewhere, and um, but anyway, but so, if they saw something for 30 days, it probably was a spaceship. You know, it's a good possibility. It could have been a comet now, but comets, if because they're hauling tail through the solar system, and they do exist, they're just not made out of ice, because they would have melted long before now. Um, the size and density, it just doesn't make sense. But so I do believe that there are astral type things, meaning astronomy type things. Um, but some of these things just don't make sense. Well, the Earth was dark for 3 days. Okay, which side? Well, what do you mean? Well, did the Earth? Now you got to think about this inertia. If you've ever been, on the end of a twirly deal on skates or the skating rink or ice skating rink or something, when you get spun out fast out there on the end of that whiplash, you're hauling butt, right? And it gets slower as you go towards the pivot point. Well, in the universe, if the Earth is spinning simply because of its density and its mass, you ain't if it just tried to go and stop. I say I'm sure that somewhere it may be able to happen, but it's going to be really difficult. But there is more likely something made the planet dark because of something between us and the sun. To me, I find that much more highly likely, or something literally, if the moon at its right point can darken patches of the earth, and a larger object, or an object that was at the right distance, could make the earth dark for 3 days. But did the planet stop rotating? Did the sun stop glowing? Or you know what I'm saying? I think there are other ways to explain some of this stuff, but they're going to say that God did it. Yeah, okay. You know, okay. When we understand the much bigger picture, you can see, well, I can see how there are other possibilities. When you bring the ET idea into the picture of why some things might happen or could happen, and you go, well, that's just not possible. Well, it was a comet. It was a comet that big that blotted out the sun for 3 days. Maybe if it was right but I'd much more believe that somebody parked between us and the sun. And I can see it. There's spaceships on the satellite pictures, right? So we know they're there. We know they've been here and been there and have been around. And for us to just think that, wait a minute, it must be a celestial something that's doing it, like a planet or an asteroid. And I'm saying that's just limiting your point of view. There's so much more to this picture. But anyway, so Teresa, how are you? David Castle. Yeah, I have heard of the connections. Okay, y'all talking about. Yeah, the human trafficking. Sahara Desert used to be an ocean. Grand Canyon was formed from a plasma discharge. Melissa was uh, clashing the Titans. Teresa says, I saw a planet behind the sun last week. Um, Yep. And what it is that they're using a reflecting type device because, and it's not always there. They put it between us and the earth, or us and the sun. But there are times when you look in the sky and the sun's going down and there are shadows, you know, that, but there's nothing there but the sun. That means there's something between us and the sun that is creating this diversion. Now, people say, well, no, it doesn't exist. Yeah, I do believe it does exist because I did lighting for 20 some 30 going on 30 years in theater. And if the light's shining, it's you get a clear, you know, uh, color across whatever it is across the sky. But if there's shadows in that light and there are no clouds or anything, something's got to be between us and the sun. And people say, well, I don't think that exists. Well, you believe Planet X exists. Why can't you believe that? And I think part of it is because we are getting the wrong frequencies of light from the sun. We all know that it has changed. It does not look the same as I was a kid. Don't feel the same neither. And it's cooking the color red. If objects that are, a piece of plastic that's red or certain colors, um, or orange, not so bad. And green doesn't really affect, and it doesn't seem to have much effect on blue colors. But I had a shovel with sort of that red orange kind of handle on it, and in less than 3 months, one side of it was faded, and the other side was okay because of where I had it sitting when the sun hit it. So and that didn't used to happen. It just didn't. So I'm thinking because those folks who have higher technologies really don't want us to fry on this planet. And there's enough, changes going on with the different wavelengths of light and so forth, and the heat index. I mean, this last summer, the heat index was 10, 11, and 12 lots of times. When I was a kid, it never got above 4. I mean, on the hottest day, it was like 4, and now it's 9, 10, 11, 12 all the time. Something's changed, right? So we can look at the old data and the new data and go, But now the shadows in the sky, think of it as like louvers in a way, um, like a Fresnel lens in a way. So we get the sunlight, but I think it's helping to block out some of the nasties. Just my opinion. But there are some other folk, small group, that who have a tendency to believe in that same area. And there's some satellite proof of some weird objects between us and the sun. So, but that's the only way that I can explain the shadows on the sky. I go, oh, look, somebody's playing, it's like shutters, And so it's like, and then other days it's just sun's going down, the whole sky is orange. And then next day there'll be shadows in the sky. No clouds, nothing there, but then there'll be separations in the color. If you ever play with light, then you understand how you can block it and shade it and change it and gel it and all that kind of stuff. You know that something's got to be between us and the sun. Has to be. Is it another sun? I think it's another spaceship. They've been talking about this Earth 2, and that for those of us who will, make it or understand it enough or vibration, we're going to get to Earth 2. And I'm like, yeah, I've been waiting on that now for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I gave up on that one. But now could it still happen? Sure. But I don't like, man, I'm going to go to Earth 2, or, I can feel, there are those of us we're going to, and like, hang on. So the more that has been talked about, it's not talked about as much anymore. And the evidence is just kind of like went. My interactions with my spirit guide, they're going, not really, Dave. We have big planets out there, or big spaceships, but not really an Earth 2. We've got simulations for folks so they'll feel more at home to get accustomed, but not not like you think. Well, you know, a lot of folks out there, oh, but there's the earth too, and there's this. I went through it too, but in the long run, and the asking the silence for the truth, I think my thoughts were being influenced by what I was hearing from other people. Now I still listen, but now it feels like my filter for some of these things, you know, I've got a bullshit meter that says, nah, that's BS. Stay out of there. Nope. What? And sometimes it'll just go beep and it'll give me a little warning sign. Part of that statement is true. Oh, which part, you know? And then there'll be the ding, you know, woo, you know, warning, warning, dear Will Robinson, don't go there. And that's, you know, that's for me, you know, don't, we're going to show you this, but we don't want you to get involved. We want you to know that it's there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but anyway, sun simulators. Yeah. Well, they're not really simulating it. They're filtering it. But anyway, because here's the deal. They can't shut off the sun. Ain't going to happen. But they can shutter it and they can lens it, but they can't shut it off. They can block it. So you have to understand, you know, just get a light and do some of your own experiments. When doing certain theater productions, and we were using black lights and real small, tight spotlights that, you know, with gobos in them. A gobo is a piece of metal that's got a design cut in it. So when the light comes through it, it will leave us a shape in the form of a shadow on whatever that you're projecting to. And so it's called a gobo. And they got all different kinds, and you can make your own if you need a special one and stuff. But anyway, but what comes out of the other end is the shadow, and that's what you're projecting. But so in that's part of why I understand about this thing. So it's not that they're changing the sun or that there's an alternate, but they've got a lens somehow between us and the sun that changes what the sun looks like to us. And it could very well appear to be two, when actually it's like a double refraction reflector kind of thing. You know, like people who were taking, you know, and it says right in your manual, don't point your camera at the sun, but all these people with digital cameras that were pointing them at the sun and taking pictures of Planet X a few years ago, you can't do that. You can't do that. That because it is false information through the lenses. And I have thought and swore and this and that, and it's like, nope. You can think it is, and you can take pictures, but the idea that 98% of them are sun dogs. And so take a picture this way, turn the camera slightly, and take 3 in a row. And that's how I either prove or disprove that something's actually there, because you can watch the sundog change. But anyway, so the sun simulators, I think they're gobos between. They got like a great big oh, I can't think of it right now. It's a frame that holds a gel, and you say, okay, what's a gel? Well, a gel is a piece of colored plastic that sits away from the bulb, and the bulb projects it depending on the type of light. But all of these have some type of projection, a mirror behind the light or something to force the light in one direction. So a gel is nothing more than a piece of plastic that is colored. So you can get pink and black, brown and blue, and you can mix the colors. You can do all different kinds of things. So what I'm thinking of is there's this great big frame up in space, and that they can change these filters out with. They can change the lenses. They can change the, yeah. So I think more in terms of that, but I've had mechanical practice with setting lights and doing those kinds of things. So anyway, the suns with the gobos can change the, I think the planetary temperatures and things are being caused not by the sun. Our climate is being affected by, we'll just call them energy devices, okay? Both on the ground and from the sky, from the good guys and the bad guys. Because I've been watching for years before some of these other channels picked it up. These lines in the radar, right? Been watching them for years now, and now all of a sudden, look at this! They're using, DEW weapons and this and that. Some of those things could be a spaceship leaving or entering, and it ends up showing up on the screen. That's a slight possibility on some of them. But when they stay in the one line and it's a beam across the, two or three states, you have a tendency to wonder, what are they doing? Well, the Madrid, the New Madrid fault had a series of earthquakes the last day and today, and many of us have been warning about it for a while. But there was some energy, listening to Dutch Sense, but also doing my own monitoring. And, I was expecting it to come over and hit. Been warning people, it's going to come. But I think some of these energies are, how do I put this? The type of energy and the strength that they're using is not something that is native to us. In other words, some of these plasma beams and flashes and things that I've seen, I absolutely don't believe it's our technology. I believe it's the other guys. And I believe it's the other guys who are using their weapons to change the climate and everything. Now, there is influence on the planet with some of these beings up there, but all they got to do is come in the atmosphere and pick a target and hit it hard enough with some of these weapons. You say, well, there are satellites up there, maybe. But you have to stop and think about the amount of energy that it takes to do that. Now, I think our secret space program has probably got it. But think of a car battery or whatever. You're going to have a really big coil, a really big something to shoot that energy all the way from outer space. My point is, I don't think those satellites that are up there have enough power necessarily to make Earth changes. Now, could they start fires? Yeah. But see, to try to change the weather or to seriously take out something, think about the energy, how much energy behind that is necessary to achieve what we think is going on. So I think there's okay, let's think itty bitty little spaceship, shooting a laser beam down and setting fires. Okay. But earth trembles and hurricanes that increase and that kind of thing requires a much greater energy power because they're trying to change that much energy. You follow me? Sort of an E equals MC squared in a way. So that the energy output to the destruction needed, you know what I mean? So it'd be like, using a lighter in the woods. Of course, it's easy to catch fire, but it's like having a lighter or having a flamethrower. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes the fires that are started, I absolutely believe are started by something else. But is it ET or is it us? And I'm thinking there's a little bit of both going in there. So, but the big things that happen and the earth changes and the fracturing and the rumbling and stuff, those are bigger machines doing that. Just, I've worked with machines all my life. So, if you want to punch through a piece of metal that's a 1/4 inch thick, you need a bigger machine. That's all. Now you can stamp out brass with a 2-ton machine or a 10-ton machine. You want to punch through a 1/4 piece of steel with a punch and die, you're going to need 100-ton. You want to form it into something, you're going to need more energy. So whatever they're doing to us, think back wherever it's coming from and go, wow, that was a bit, that's got to be a big some bitch. You know what I'm saying? Keeping things in perspective. So, and I have noticed some of these things over my years. I'm watching one shoot down another one out of the sky over my house. I mean, you know, I still think about that guy and go, it's crazy. Hey, Candy Apple, harp can do that, David. Well, a lot of the harp is down, but I've worked in radio and how AM works and directional antennas. Some of the weather manipulation, they gave up on HARP because it wasn't as effective as their new generation of stuff. Okay. So there are some of these universities that have taken up the old HARP stations for testing. But I think in the last few years, it's less of HARP and more of these other, that's my personal opinion, but you just don't hear about HARP. You don't. Directed energy weapons. Yeah, well, you know, HARP, it was bouncing it off the atmosphere and this and that. And yeah, well, our atmosphere's changed. When was the last time you heard anybody talk about the ozone layer? So there are things going on. And I think there are some people who are seriously worried that if they bounce too much stuff off the atmosphere, like they do AM radio waves, and shortwave bounces off the, you know, the inside of the atmosphere, that if they do HARP too much, it not only changes the weather down here, but it puts holes in our atmosphere. I mean, like holes in our atmosphere, because our atmosphere has changed in the last 20 years. Now, that's my watching and looking and observing a little bit of higher dimensional stuff. And again, I'm not saying that they don't use HARP, because I've been able to look at some of the Google Earth things, and some of those arrays are still out there. But the way that things have changed is my point about directed energy. I think they've stepped up their game. This is my point. Okay. And currently, I don't think the fires in California are a result of HARP. Nope. It's too small, too directed. That's, yeah, that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. Hey, Truth in Me, Project Sky Falls, Candy Apple. Hi, everybody. How's everybody been? I don't know. Pretty fair, I guess, Truth. I heard shuttles have new lasers now. Yeah, they've had lasers before. They just haven't told many folks about it. Do they control the weather too? In areas, yes. Yep, they do. They do. And I've watched, you know, storms disappear around here. And we've got the Moody Air Force Base over near Valdosta from here. I don't know, it's about 45 miles. And there's been some strange radar signatures come out of there. I'm here to tell you some really weird stuff showing up on the radar down here, coming out of that Valdosta area and over there. So, you know, who knows? Air Force Base, you know. But anyway, it's been almost 2 deadgum hours. I've been yapping it, you folks. Scratch, doobie doobie doo. I got one sitting right here. I'm ready to do it. Shuttles will launch missiles and energy weapons from outer. No, here's one thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are rockets that are shooting up satellites and stuff. Yes. But the stuff that does the most damage is coming off planet in secret spaceships that are huge, and you just ain't going to see. As soon as they lift off the ground, they go into cloak, and they're in the atmosphere. They don't leave a vapor trail. And a lot of the some of these spaceships, from some of the underground news that I've been listening to for years, is that there are certain metals they cannot make on Earth, because that's why it's rare earth. Gravity gets in the way. So some of these metals are actually done in space. So my thought is, I know what it takes, you know, to heat a piece of metal, to forge it, to pour it, you know, holy crap. So do they have a large, now here's one of the, what would they use a large lens for up in space? A furnace. What do you mean, Dave? No, seriously. If they were using a focused beam like anybody else, here I got one for looking at stuff, a magnifying glass, and burning ants or starting a fire. I have one of these in my backpacks. Even though they're plastic, you can start a fire with one of these things if it's, daylight and, you know, um, so it's also good for picking splinters, or reading fine print or looking for grumpies on the internet. But the idea, though, that in all of this, there are sciences and things that we just have not gotten yet. But if I was needed to melt things and I couldn't form them in on the earth because of gravity, things settle. And there are tool steels where once, if it's this thick, one side will be a little harder than the top side. And because so they've gone into what they call powdered metal, CPM. So they take metal because it will have this tendency to layer up as it cools. They put it into a very high temperature and then blast it and turn this into small little particles. They vaporize the molten metal. But then afterwards, it goes into a mold, and between pressure and heat, they put all these little tiny little marbles back together again, okay, as to be a single piece. The cohesion and the strength and the life of the tool. Anyway, this has been around for a while now, but I can understand how they can't make certain things because metal would separate. So if you're trying to get a high strength alloy and you wanted a uniform condition, how would you do it? The process would be difficult. But if you were weightless in space and the metal could just like form in these things, oh wow. You know what I'm saying? Oh wow. How do they get spaceships with no seams in them? They're not welded, they're not stamped. It's like they're poured. The whole thing is poured. It's one piece of metal. So it's like, now how do they do that? Or this whole quarter panel, fender, one piece of metal, a hood, one piece of metal. So you look at things and you go, wait a minute, I don't see any seams. So how'd they make that some bitch? They poured it as one solid, gooey mess, and then it hardened in that shape, whatever the shape is. They poured into a mold. So, but it would be so easy to get some of these things, especially if you had a furnace in space that looked the size of the sun from our point of view. So we say we see this other planet when maybe that's the furnace factory that we're seeing around those lenses. Do you understand? Well, why would they be up there? I can understand perfectly why they would do that. And also because the color of the sun has changed and there are other things. But you wanted, you couldn't build a blast furnace to get some of these degrees, and you couldn't do these things. And it would always be on. You could park it out there to where you're always pointing at the sun. So you could blast furnace all the time, you know? So anyway, when you understand processes of things, like I've learned over the years with metal and metallurgy and stamping and molding and all that, and you look at things out there in the world and go, now how'd they do that? That had to take a really big mold. Now, I would almost went to work for Pratt and Whitney, and I went to Columbus, Georgia, and went to their plant up there where they stamp out these huge compressor. It's one of the stages in the jet airplane in the engine, and they stamp out these hubs that some of them are made out of titanium alloy. They last longer and they're lighter. And certain stages where it's hotter, they have to be steel, a certain type of steel. And so, but they have to stamp these things out of one single piece. And so they have these great big metal billets, okay, of just a piece of metal. It's just a big blob, hardened, and they put it in this, and it goes in a furnace to heat it up. It doesn't get cherry red. They just heat it up good, so it's a little more malleable. But the bottom of this machine is 20 foot down, the base, and it's 30 foot tall, and it's like it was 100,000 ton press. Now I've worked with 100 ton presses, but this was 100,000. This thing was huge. It would take up a small city, the downtown area, the base of this thing. And when it came down, it would go boom, 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 and the whole plant would shake with just one stroke of this thing. But they have to be made out of one piece of metal. So when I think about, and they're only like this big around, they're not great big. So in order to do the things that we get and how they're made and things, when you think about the machine that makes some of this stuff, if you've never seen the machines, then you just go, oh, that wasn't really that hard, when actually it was. And so they have these giant machines. Now, I wonder at this. Here's this giant machine. What kind of giant machine made the giant machine? I mean, there's this humongous cylinder. It had to go on a lathe. Can you think about this? And this thing's like 30 feet long. So you've got to have a lathe that's 40 feet long and can hold, a tube that's, 4 foot in diameter, and be able to turn it to a polished, smooth finish that has less than 1,000th run out over the whole length of the thing. And you go, what? Yeah. So the machines that build the machines, oh my God. But, most of us, we just walk around and go, yeah, well, ain't that cool? But there was a lot of stuff that went into that. A lot of grumpy people, a lot of grumpy arguments. I know when I worked in the field as an engineer, I'd go, that's just not necessary. Or a lot of times I'd say, we need to bolster this. We need to change this material, or we need to do something here. And I even argued with several of the engineers from the Ford company. So anyway, they weren't real happy about, me being in on, oh crap, what is it? Right across the river from Detroit. Windsor. There's a Ford motor plant there. At least there was. I don't know if it's still there or not, but anyway. So having seen processes and machines and things and stuff, when we look at how could they do that, or could they have done it? I always look at, they have to have a machine to make what we see. What? Yeah, especially if it's one piece. So there are technologies that are beyond our thinking, in that in order for them to do what they do, they've got to have one big ass machine to build it. Okay. So would they have a furnace up in space? Sure. Would there be a planet sized thing next to it? Yeah. Why? Because that's the furnace. That's the factory. That's where they're making stuff. Just saying. Hey, Slightly Slanted. High waffles. Yeah, I haven't had waffles in a while. I used to go to IHOP all the time, at least once a month. And I haven't been to IHOP since this thing, and I'm ready to go back. Good to see you all. Scratch, Slightly Slanted Truth. Let me see. Who else is up in here? I'm an alien, I agree. I think we're all hybrids of some type, and we just need to accept it. I did a video earlier about evolution, and, and what adaptation versus evolution is, and, things to consider when discussing it. But, I have gone back over some of the subjects I've talked about, to not necessarily to rethink it, but just look at the subject and kind of like, is there anything that I kind of missed in that, for myself, and of course that I would wish to share. But in that, I think to myself, well, pretty much, maybe a little bit over, no, but And then there are sometimes I'm surprised after the fact, and I think to myself, you left out this point right here. Oh, that's another possibility. Like, whoa, yeah, okay. So, but anyway, in topics of discussion, the idea though that there's too much information that we have been tampered with, and some of these folks and I really admire them, but they'll talk about UFOs and giants and this and that and the other thing, but when they get to the idea that God can't be in a spaceship, or that Jesus, could actually have ridden in a spaceship and has been reincarnated several times and all that. Oh, no, no, no. That's where they draw the line. But you believe in Bigfoot, you believe in giants, and you believe in this, and you believe in that, but you can't take that leap of faith. You got to hang on to God in the Bible. And, but couldn't God be in a spaceship? No, he couldn't do that. Well, they say he's going to come on a cloud. No, 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 it can't be that. It can't be aliens. Well, but you're showing alien evidence. You're showing this. Yeah, but God is God. Okay, they've lied to you about everything else. Well, think about this. I do believe in a higher spirit. I do believe in a higher cosmic thing. Slightly Slanted says, when the spirit of the light that shines through the cosmos draws my flame closer in harmony to the lift up of my fire from out of the darkness magnet of fire, that is one with all. Wow, that's a lot of darkness flaming, and whoo, that's flame on there, Slightly Slanted. That's a mouthful and also a thoughtful. And in things that I talk about too, but it's also in things in the universe. Some things are complicated, but when you break them down into the basic components of the universe, not really. Well, but this airplane's made out of this alloy and that alloy. Yeah, well, that's a fabricated thing, versus something that is at least semi-natural in the universe. But with what we know now, to ignore the fact, especially with that splice at the top of our DNA chain, that right there is like, whoop, they messed with this. Well, this and that and that and this. No, we're not from the apes, because nobody else has this distinction other than human beings. And so, do we share traits? Sure, we do. But a lot of animals, octopus and bananas are alike or something, So there's this. Do we have similar cells? Yeah, because there's only so many cells to go around. It's the combination of them puppies, right? So, but somebody tinkered with us. That's just all there is to that. So, y'all, I've been on here for 2 hours. I love you, everybody. I do. Waffles and pancakes, yum yum, and and some good cane syrup. You hear me? I'm talking about good cane syrup. Um, Someone showed me a pic once. I was mind raped, woolly bully. um, Love you too, Michelle. I'm not finding. Okay, y'all are talking about something else. Okay, because I don't look at the chat room. Y'all just talk amongst yourself, and that's absolutely fine. So, my friends, I'm going to cut it short only after 2 hours. And I got, the old man's thing, but let me just ask your opinion. Did you laugh at any of it? That's all. Did you get a giggle? My making the point was supposed to be in being ludicrous and silly. And, I'm going to have to go back over it. Your online activity is spied on. I just can't Google everything. David, Columbus, Georgia is scary. Yes, it is. Yes. I almost got a job up there, almost moved up there, and I went up there, and Fort Benning is up there, and there was just some. It just didn't feel right. I haven't been to Columbus in a while, but I used to go up to Columbus all the time. Had done some uh, um, events. I can't think of it. Workshops, that kind of thing. Anyway, so Teresa, Candy Apple, if you're still out there hanging around, there you are. Much love, everybody. Thank you. So I hope you had got just a little bit of a grin on your face from the discussion, and my long haired craziness. So to all the comics out there who try to make us laugh, I think it's a good thing. And we ourselves, and me, myself, and I, and you, we should remember that sometimes we just need to get silly. We just absolutely need to get silly to keep us sane, to keep that balance going. So I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive and share the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you, your friends, your family, your relatives, all of your relations, past, present, and to come, and any acquaintance you might bump into, will learn to accept and receive and to share that knowledge and the healing from the universe. And in that law of three, I do continue to pray each day that each and every one of you will find happiness and that you will continue to learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom from the universe, and to continue to share it and to find joy in your lives. So, Ween Day is coming up soon. So, going to try to bring something positive into the story now. I usually once a year I try to do quote the ghost stories, true ghost stories that I have picked up from around here, and my own ghost stories and so forth. But um, so I might do that again. Might not do it necessarily on Halloween, but we'll see. But anyway, my friends, please be safe. And weekends coming up. Be safe, be kind, be happy, find joy in your life, regardless of the grumbles that might come through. And maybe this little video will, anytime you hear somebody grumbling, you'll just go, that crazy Dave. I remember he did a whole video on the grumbles. There you go. That's what I want you to do, is remember to laugh at the grumbling. So until next time, we love you too, Teresa and Michelle and everybody. Brandy, Candy Apple, Scratch, Truth in Me, Slightly Slanted, all y'all. Doug's been asleep, man. He's whacked out. But anyway. So TTFN, right back at you, Michelle. And until next time, we do love you here. We do. Me and Doug are both. And thank you for your kind remarks and your concern about Duggar. That was very kind and thoughtful of you. And shame on me. I was sitting here laughing and talking on the phone with a friend of mine. I said, I have to do another video and tell these people, Duggar came home. So I love y'all. Thank you. Cosmic hugs. Till next time. Cheers, everybody. Bye.